Today I'm talking to Joe Wilmot, the owner and creator of Pool Trader. Joe, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on. So I'm curious, the general flow of our discussion will be talking about your background in pools and then talking about Pool Trader. How did you get your start in the pool service business?
It was around 2005. It was an interesting time as I was kind of in a little bit of a career shift.
Pool People is brought to you by and powered by Pool Dial. Pool Dial is an AI powered pool service software. You can run your whole pool business through text with our AI assistant. And this software also provides typical things like routing, customer management, and billing, and integrates with Stripe and QuickBooks, and is generally flexible to how you run your business. I've heard people talk about their conversions to pool service software, help them grow for large businesses over 300,000 additional revenue in a year. And I've just heard that pool service software can be transformative to your business. If you're still on pen and paper or using Excel spreadsheets, I heavily encourage you to check out pool service software. And if you're using another piece of software, I encourage you to check our product out. We've launched more recently than other software tools. So while others might have been around longer and be more trustworthy for that, a lot of our features are newer and maybe more intuitive than other products on the market. Thank you for listening so far. Please continue to enjoy Pool People and check us out, Pool Dial at pooldial.com.
And one of my best friends was already in the pool industry for about 10 or so years. And literally just got talking one day, and I started off with him hiring me to clean filters for him. So he gave me a very brief synopsis of how to take that, take down a cartridge filter, DE filter, break it all down. And that was a DE filters were a heavy learning curve, but I started off just cleaning filters for my buddy. And then as the months kind of went on, just making a little extra side cash with that, I just fell in love with the business plan of the pool industry. Yeah.
I see. I see. And what were you doing beforehand?
I was an electrician. I still am to a degree. I can't seem to shake not doing electrical work. I grew up
Okay.
with it. I was born and raised into and I had an electrical contractor's household, and so I didn't have much choice in the matter. But yeah, in the trades as an electrician.
Okay. Were there any significant differences from? I'm sure there were some, but what are like the key
Yeah.
differences from pools to like being an electrician as a career?
Well, especially at the time, 2005, we moved to Arizona. I'm originally from Ohio, and my
Okay.
wife and I moved here to Arizona in 2005. So, and as the trades were going through a weird shift, it was kind of leading up until the housing crash. So
Okay.
things were just kind of all over the place in the trades at the time. In particular, I fell in love with the idea as my buddy was, and I'd ride along with him. We'd have fun. He didn't pay me other than like the filter cleans. We were just hanging out a lot of times, but I fell in love with just like the recurring revenue. Like we're just, you go here every week and you're charging, $25 every week. With the trades, with electrical, you might get your brand new house, and you wire it and then you finish it and then it's done. Service calls come and go here and there, but they're intermittent, they're not predictable. So like the recurring revenue of like that service stop, and how profitable that was. I mean, the margins aren't huge, but then kind of like how I got started with the filter cleans, and then he was bringing me with him to do electrical work, like replacing motors, repairing motors, changing out time clocks, and even certain automation jobs, and then seeing the margins on that. And I'm like, and these are already your customer. You're going to do this huge job and make this great money, but then you're back again to clean the pool next week. And
Sure.
so it was just the whole business model. It made so much sense to me. I really did. I fell in love with it when it all kind of came together.
Okay. Okay. And then could you give me like a big picture of your pool business? How many pools were you at your peak? And
Yep.
like how many employees? I think you mentioned your wife was managing it with you. Give me the big picture of your business at its peak.
Yeah. Well, my wife refused to work with me.
She
So,
did. Okay.
oh yeah,
Okay.
she
Okay.
wanted no part of it. No, we're a great team in general, but
Yeah.
not to work together. But anyway,
Okay.
no, little tongue in cheek humor there.
Sure.
So yeah, my first introduction to the pool industry was in '05,
Okay.
and then progressively, I actually started my own company and went out on my own in 2008.
Okay.
And then yeah, built it at my peak. We were doing just under 90 pools. I think the peak was maybe exactly about 85. Um, and then yeah, it was me and at that time it was me and one technician. And then his wife was actually doing my books. So I had like
Okay.
I
Okay.
had a husband and wife team that were working with me at my peak. Yeah.
That makes sense. Could you walk me through then a typical day of your route at the peak of your business?
Uh well, I'll answer that in two parts.
Yeah.
So at the peak, the point which I brought on uh my technician, which I was really fortunate. He was one of my best friends. I actually view them as family, and I'd known them for a long time anyway. And he wanted to switch careers, and so that worked out really nice. He came on. I think he came on about 2014, somewhere in that area. And uh, when we were at our peak, he was doing the vast majority of the service. So he,
Okay.
out of our 85 pools, he was doing between 60 and 65, and I was doing the remaining 20. But then I was doing all the repairs.
Hmm.
So it was at the peak. That's kind of how it was running. I was doing all the repairs, and a handful of. I took the problem customers and just
Sure.
the customers that demanded that the boss actually be present. Any pool guy who's been in the industry any length of time knows those particular customers. They're not fun. But anyway, so that's kind of how it was. But right before I brought him on, my tech, I was doing I was doing that 60 or 65 myself. And it was just I really tried to condense it into a 4 day, which wasn't terrible, like 15 service customers a day, and then leaving kind of like Friday and or Saturday if it had to be for repairs and just overflow work. But that was always my goal. I wanted to kind of base it on a 4 day week if possible, and doing 15 pools a day. I think really that's a real sweet spot. Because I always tried to base the daily route on the worst day of the year. So here in Arizona, the worst day of the year is right after we get a gigantic dust storm or haboob, whatever they call this. And so the next, that week is just going to be killer.
Hmm.
And you're going to be at every single pool, maybe 2 or 3 times longer than normal. So if you're at 15 on a normal basis, it's still manageable. If you have that worst day, you can still get through all those at the same time. So yeah, before I had my tech, that's kind of how I had it lined up. And then looking at expansion, and he wanted to come on, we continued to grow about 20, 25 more.
Okay. And there might be guys listening to this who are like doing the 60 pools and doing the repairs separately.
Mhm.
And you transition to doing mostly repairs. I know that's something people do, and sometimes they have employees that do only repairs. What was that process like for you, switching from doing lots of service to doing primarily repairs, and then also you said problem customers?
Oh, that was real easy. That was
Okay.
that. Yeah, I was definitely reaping the fruits of my labor. Just having a handful of service customers that I did, you know, I think I'm trying to remember back. It was kind of like, with about 80, 85 customers, there was at least a couple repairs, or at least something extra to do every single week. And
Hmm.
so I was doing maybe 5 to 10 customers, 3 to 4 days a week. I really kept it kind of loose. I took my liberty as the owner. Um, it was real easy though. I love repairs are where every pool guy every pool service company, that's where you make your money. The repairs and the high dollar stuff, the routine weekly maintenance, the monthly maintenance, that's just that keeps the lights on. You can earn a very good living doing that solely, even if you hire out someone to do your repairs. But yeah, repairs are where you make the money. So when we had that all together, that was a very good period in time.
And it sounds like your family background as an electrician maybe helped a little bit with the repair side of things.
Oh yeah, even
Yeah.
just being in the trades my whole life. Although I was, and I had done a couple other things, framing, siding, dabbled a little bit of plumbing, but obviously my main background. But just being in the trades, um, taking things apart, you know, cutting, gluing, obviously electrical, wiring up motors and all that. The learning curve was very easy for me. I was fortunate that I had that background, but yeah, going into to repair work was a very smooth transition for me.
Okay, sure, sure. And then so zooming back to what we were talking about at the beginning, you were saying you got your start in '05, if I'm getting this correct, and then in '08 you started your own business.
Mm-hmm.
How did you go about getting your first few pools?
My very first pool was from my best friend who taught
Yeah.
me the business. And so where I live still, where we lived at the time, he lived here as well. He no longer lives here, but it's a little town called Fountain Hills here in Arizona. And the very first pool, it was a referral customer that he got that was all the way in basically like it was right on the border of Scottsdale and Phoenix. It was about almost 35, 40 minutes away. Well, he didn't want it because he was already consolidated very much into just Fountain Hills. And so he passed the lead along to me, and that was my first customer. From there, I went through I didn't really have a lot of money or the know-how for marketing and all that. So I'm a pretty personable person. I enjoy talking to people. It doesn't scare me to strike up a conversation with new people. So just being chatty like I am and encouraging my customers to to give me as a referral with incentives. Um, that's how it all started. It was all word of mouth. I think maybe in the first month, I think I got magnet signs on my truck pretty quick, and that of course helped. That was great. Just a visible representation of my company and being around. But even just I pounded the pavement. I really did. My wife would the nail salon that she always went to get pedicures and all that. She would put my business card there. They allowed that. Um, and so women women in particular, it was very funny. They loved my business name. My former business, it's now my former tech and his wife own it now, is H2Joe. And everybody they fell in love with the name. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, that's everybody,
It's
you can't say
pithy.
H2Joe and not kind of get a smile on your face.
Yeah.
So I got a ton of customers from the nail salon. And I had several of them tell me, it's like, I just love your business name. I got it kind of gave them a, like, if your personality is anything like your business name, I was like, I want you as my pool guy. So I owe a lot to coming up with that name, H2Joe. It did me very well. But uh, business cards everywhere around town that I could. Um, and even one thing that I did, like the local hardware store, Ace Hardware, I just went up and asked. I was like, I can't really pay anything. Would you allow me to set up a little tabletop and just pass out my business card to people here in town that are coming in and out of the hardware store? And the manager at the time, he was like, yeah, absolutely, go for it. And so I got a handful of business from there, and literally everywhere I could have an opportunity, um, just to interact with people, whether I was pitching my business or not. I'm at the grocery store, and some little old lady or older gentleman is needs help picking up something or loading groceries. I mean, I was always in that mode, and I wasn't just trying to make a buck, but just trying to be a nice guy. I mean, I am a nice guy, but oftentimes those interactions led to them asking me what I did, or they saw my truck after I did that. And so, um, yeah, gaining customers in town, just being a normal, good human being was very beneficial. So I got a lot of business in that regard. And like I said, customers just talking, referring their neighbors and their family, their relatives. It progressed like that.
So generally being generous, getting the word out there.
Hmm.
Your wife sounds like it's doing the same, and then you got your first pool from your friend. How
Yeah.
long did it take till you made the your business like a full-time thing?
Um, it was probably it was just after a year. Like I said, I didn't market or anything. I think it took me a year to get um to 15 or 20 customers. So yeah, in the very beginning, I worked three jobs. So I wasn't working electrical at the time. I really wanted to. I've never really enjoyed it. It's a great trade, and it pays very well. But you know,
Pool Brief is a twice weekly news source for the pool industry. It collects news from all the popular pool podcasts, like the Pool Foo podcast or the Pool Magazine podcast, as well as trade industry publications like Pool Magazine, Aqua Magazine, or the pool service industry. It's a great way to stay up with the news in the industry, whether it's motor regulations or just generally understand the broader industry landscape. You can check it out at poolbrief.com.
growing up in the trade and being forced into it, there's that whole psychological level of never really enjoyed it. So I was doing I was actually driving what do you call it? Not a cab, but I was driving like for ExecuCar here in town. It was like the businessman version of Super Shuttle. So just
Okay.
it was like a taxi service. I did that, and I actually worked unarmed security for a company, and I would drive down to the Dish Network building in Chandler and work through the night. Yeah, so I was working three jobs for it was about a full year to maybe 14, 15 months before I had enough customers to where I could make it financially. It made sense to where I could push and move forward.
And were you making sure those new customers were on weekends or something, or how were you fitting them in?
I did not sleep for about a year and a half.
Wow.
No, I let, in the beginning, I let customers pick their day.
Yeah.
So, and I literally, I worked around it. I was, so hungry to build the business. I gave the customers more power than they deserved.
Do
But
you
I,
have any
yeah.
advice for someone at that stage in their business? They're not quite at the full time. Maybe they're even just considering getting started. They have a full time job. What advice would you give someone going through that year and a half that you went through?
Oh, good question. Yeah, definitely don't be as much of a pushover as I was. Have because by and large, people are reasonable, and if it's, you know, a, if they want a certain day and you can get, you're either available or you're not. So it's a tough thing in the pool industry, especially when you're really hungry and you're trying to build. It's hard to say no to new guys. The best thing I can encourage them to do is really get comfortable saying no. What when you're stretching yourself too thin and you shouldn't agree to something, man, trust your gut and your instinct on that, and just because it just accelerates the process of burnout. Pool guys, it's probably one of the most popular trades where guys get burnt out. So trust your gut. When a customer, they all demand Friday service, right? They all want the pool perfectly clean for the weekend and all that. Say no, move them to Thursday, and explain the process of, you know, the pool cleans itself. You're just there to maintain and all that. But yeah, new guys, yeah, get used to saying no.
I like that. And so '08 and then maybe to '09
Mm-hmm.
and maybe 2010 you're going relatively steady. You're starting to make this a full-time thing.
Mm-hmm.
How did you network in the industry?
I literally talked to everybody I could. Again, just, being personable. If I ran into, especially going to like, the wholesale places, SCP, and anywhere I ran into pool guys, even at the gas station, just, you see, I mean, pool guys are easy to spot, right? They got the pole hanging out and all that. I literally just tried to go shake hands, introduce myself. Where are you at? Are you here in Fountain Hills? And or are you around here? I asked them the same questions you're asking me. How did you get started? How long you been in the industry? And just where are you buying this? Do you prefer a particular brand or that? I just tried to get as personable as possible to make connections. Yeah, and that everywhere I saw a pool guy, even out to dinner when I'm not on the clock, the wife and I are out to dinner, and I see, you see a pool, you're going into a restaurant and you see a pool guy's truck out there, and it's like, oh, I wonder
You
if I
gotta
can
hunt them
spot him.
down.
I
Yeah.
wonder if I can figure out which guy he is. And a couple of times that happened. It was fun. So it's like, are you the pool guy? Is that your truck out
How
there?
did you spot him?
Yeah. Pool guys tend to have a particular look. I don't know how to describe it, but we just I don't know. You can, if you see a lineup of guys and like one of these guys is a pool guy, for some reason you can spot them. Something about their demeanor and their presence is some kind of giveaway. I don't know.
I like it. I like it. Uh, what were the biggest unlocks for you in the business? In the business, whether like mindset unlocks or like tactics?
Uh, what I saying no, that was a big
Yeah, like
unlock.
what you were saying.
When
Yeah.
Yeah, um, and just
Are there any stories you're open to sharing in regards to saying no?
uh,
Just like
oh
because
sure.
that's an advice that someone might hear a lot, but maybe
Mhm.
they think they're saying no a lot, but they actually aren't, or something like
Mhm.
this. Or are there any like places you think someone should draw the line, or just helping someone maybe they're getting their start and they don't say no, but they think they do and they've heard the advice? Could you maybe give a story or something like this to help understand that?
Sure. I'll give a couple.
Yeah.
So if you look at a map, for everybody watching this, if you're looking at a map of Arizona, in particular the Phoenix area, I live in Fountain Hills, which is like the far east valley. It's east of Scottsdale. Um, there are two customers I remember in that first year I was building that I said no to because I did not say no a lot. One was in Goodyear, which is about a 50-minute drive, and the other was in Buckeye, which is about an hour drive. I remember I've never forgotten those two phone calls I got because it killed me. It killed me to turn down work. I've got customers calling. Um, and so yeah, part of me just never forgot that. But it was the right decision. What am I doing driving an hour? Even though as I built my business, I was driving way too far as it was. As I built and people, were calling, I accepted. I went as far north as Cave Creek and North Phoenix, which, from my house, if I was going to drive just from my house to the furthest account, about 40 or so minutes. And then I drove as far south as Chandler, which again, it was right about a 40-minute drive. But as you're getting customers, you justify this next guy, it's only 10 more minutes. It's only 12 more minutes. But every 10 or 12 minutes is getting further and further away from my house, which I always wanted to have everything in Fountain Hills where I lived. Some guys don't want to have that. They want a little degree of separation, but I always wanted that. So anyway, saying no to those two customers was crucial. Other people, uh, I've had this happen a handful of times where people that refuse to drain their pool, no, we're not servicing your pool anymore because it's the equivalent. I always like giving analogies that people can understand or relate to immediately. It's as if you're taking your car to a mechanic and he says what needs to be done, but you're like, no, I refuse to change my engine oil. No, will not do it. That makes no sense. That mechanic will not, you are not going to be his customer. It's like, no, I refuse to work on your car because you refuse to do what's necessary. So and this came with a little bit of knowledge and time in the industry, saying no to people that refuse to drain pools, or refuse to do certain repairs and just basic maintenance. My filter doesn't need cleaned twice a year. We only do it like once the pressure gets, just general rules of thumb, things they heard from, either family members or the internet, or what, the pool store that tests your chems, what they're telling you to do. Being able to say no to those customers, and you are no longer my customer. That was crucial. So far away pools, and customers that will refuse to repair and do things the right way. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then real quick, in terms of faraway pools, is there a rule of thumb that you'd give people? Like don't accept pools that are so many minutes away? Um, yeah.
No, you know what? A rule of thumb? No, not necessarily. Every area is different. So like here,
Mhm.
here in the Phoenix area, uh, we're a pretty tight um, metropolitan area. I mean, it's communities are pretty tight. So, um, but then you've got places like, Texas, or maybe well, I thought of Texas in particular. It seems like guys in Texas, the drive pool to pool seems to be on average a little further than normal. It's more rural, you know.
Yeah.
Any other states, for that matter, just where it's more rural, those guys, there's really no option to drive maybe 20 or 30 minutes to the next customer, and their pricing is different too. Phoenix to Texas, where we might be an average of $150 a month, some place in Texas is double that, 275, $300 a month, because the length of time spent cleaning it and the distance driving to it, all those kind of things play. But my my goal was always to be all in Fountain Hills, which I did attain that goal. But so my full perimeter, nothing was more than a 10-minute drive, end to end. I got everything dialed in that tight.
Okay. And did you end up ever doing marketing for your business?
I did here and there. Obviously, like I said, I had the magnet signs on my truck.
Yeah.
I did take out ads in the Fountain Hills Times, and um, obviously at the corkboard, SCP, put in your business card. I mean, I put my business card in as many places as I could that would allow me to do it for free, or didn't charge like an advertising fee. So, but by and large, everything I built was word of mouth. Yeah.
I see. I see. That makes sense. Um, yeah. How did your how did you when you had these 85 pools and it sounded like most of them were in Paradise Valley, how did you go about tightening your route?
Fountain Hills.
Fountain Hills, my bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, as I said, I, I went as far north as Cave Creek and as far south as Chandler. I literally just started segmenting off and selling off groups of pools here and there, or trading, like to get something closer. I didn't trade a whole lot. It only happened maybe once or twice during that time. But I was trying to sell off, five or six here, five or six there. Um, and so just the process of just trying to consolidate and changes. Unfortunately, there was a couple of customers that just, as I was growing more and more in Fountain Hills, and I didn't really, Pool Trader didn't exist at that time.
Yeah.
So um, I just let him go because I couldn't find anybody to take him over. And it just, that wasn't really good for my reputation. That was, I wish I had done that slightly different,
Hmm.
than just letting certain customers go. But I did do that. It was a tough decision, but it was, the drive to do them, uh, it outweighed it. Just staying. I wasn't losing money, but my price per hour, what I was making, just it was very, very small in comparison to just focusing that time and energy where I lived, where I wanted to grow.
Okay. Okay. And then you mentioned previously your uh the now owner of uh did you say H2Joe?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
it, how did you go about considering hiring him? Um, how did you train him? What was that process like for you?
Again, I was real fortunate. Again, he was a friend of mine, basically family.
Yeah.
He was looking to get out of what he was doing previously. He was in the trades as well, in a different area, and he wanted to move on. So he actually approached me, and it was just the timing was just it was really perfect. So just having him ride along, I was like, well, this is what the industry is, and um, at the time it was only about 60 or 65 pools. So for a while there, I took the hit, giving him the work. And so obviously I wasn't making as much money, but it was like, okay, this is the perfect opportunity where I'm going to give him the work. I'm not making as much money, because, I'm not doing all the service, and I'm also paying someone to do it. But then this gives me more time to concentrate on really growing and putting more energy into, word of mouth marketing and just focusing on that. So he rode along with me for, um, it wasn't that long, to be honest. If I had it to do over again, I would have had him ride with me a little longer. Um, that would have been more beneficial for him for sure. But I think it was only maybe 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 2.5. But he caught on real fast. The pool industry isn't rocket science, of course. It just basic pool maintenance, brush, skim, empty baskets, you know, making sure you turn off equipment before you open things up, and, knowing how to dose things accordingly. And I left myself available. He called me a lot in the first month or two, which I loved it. He would always be apprehensive, like, I'm asking too many questions and all that. I never made him feel I never made him feel that way. I was like, man, you asking me more and more questions, just this is good. You want to learn, and you're not doing something that like your gut feeling or what you think is right. You're double checking with me. And so it went really well. It was actually a very good, really good transition and arrangement to have him come on.
Okay, okay. And when did you consider selling your business to him, and what was that process like?
Uh, it it wasn't it wasn't much before I actually sold it. I could kind of tell that, because it was a husband and wife team, right? So she did my books, and he was in the field, and um, he as time went on, and he wanted to earn more money. I progressively paid him more as he got more knowledgeable, and but he wanted to do, filter cleanings, make extra money. That was easy, showing him how to do that, and then even repairs, showing him how to do certain repairs. I could tell that they were getting a little bit of the itch that maybe they wanted to kind of go off on their own, and so and I wasn't burnt out, but I was kind of looking to do something new. And obviously, Pool Trader was heavy on my mind the last several years on could that turn into a platform in a business. So again, the timing just worked out really well where we had a couple of conversations. It's like, yeah, if you looking to do your own thing, would you be interested in just taking over the business? And um, it went really, really smooth. The sale was, in all honesty, it was kind of like we said a number out loud, and we were instantly on the same page. It's like, this is the number that I wanted. And they're like, yeah, they said that's what we thought you were going to say. I'm like, perfect. There was almost no negotiation. Um, and so just I went to an attorney. He drew everything up, and the terms were all, discussed and agreed upon, signed, notarized, and that was it. Really, just the nice thing about my situation was, and it's this is unique. This doesn't happen. The normal pool sale transaction, all that, because he was already with me and he was in the field for it was like 4.5 years. He just took ownership of my phone number. So all of a sudden, I'm not answering the phone, and now it was him. So the transition was it was literally seamless. So
And then so you sold the route, obviously. Did you sell any of the equipment, the truck? How is the deal structured?
not a vehicle. He had his own vehicle.
He had his own vehicle.
But yeah, the business name. So
Yeah.
they are now the owners of H2Joe. That's not me. Yeah, they took ownership of everything. Yeah, the name, and I had a little bit of equipment, but nothing major. And he took yeah, he didn't take, he purchased. He got all the equipment, everything, and also just my support. I mean, I not that he really needed it, but for the next couple of years, I mean, he would call me here and there. He had a pretty good handle on everything, but there'd be the occasional circumstance that would arise that he wanted to bounce something off me, and so I was there, and it yeah, they have since doubled the company from
Well,
when I had it. So yeah, they're firing on all cylinders. They're great. They're doing really well.
then you are filing it all on all cylinders, but in the tech direction of things. I'd love for you now
Mm-hmm.
to tell me a little bit about the story of how Pool Trader got started. I introduced you as the owner of Pool Trader, but
Mm-hmm.
what is Pool Trader and how did it get started?
Pool Trader, it's an online platform where pool service companies go to buy, sell, and trade accounts, routes, whole businesses, without any brokers. So where that came from, it came from the very beginning. As that first year that I was building my company, and just like I said, seeing other pool guys, especially when I was driving far out, like to my furthest pools. I'd see these pool guys, on the same street, routinely, just thinking to myself, man, I wonder if he's just like me. I wonder if he's driving a half an hour to get to this account just like I am. And so just thinking, man, I wonder if he's got something closer to where I live in Fountain Hills, and he could, maybe we could trade. I could take that one, he could take this one. If the prices of the accounts were, the monthly maintenance, the monthly fee was off, we could do a little cash on top. But I had always thought of that, but I was never able to make like a transaction in that way. There was nothing other than like a handshake deal. Like I said, I did sell off portions of my route throughout the years, but I always just thought like, man, why isn't there anything that just everybody could do this? Like across the nation, just I was always thinking trading, right? Like just, pool guys just getting tight routes. It's like, man, brother, why are you driving all the way out here and I'm driving all the way out there? I'm like, man, let's trade these accounts and just get less windshield time and make the same, we're making more money with less time. So the idea of it came early on. But then just, especially after I sold off segments and I got used to the process of how easy it was to sell accounts. If you can sell a car, private party, you can sell a pool route. It is not much different. And like if you can buy, you go on Craigslist or whatever, Auto Trader, and you you ask certain questions. You want to know about the history of the vehicle, and you negotiate a price and terms, and boom, there it is. Buying a route is not much different. So it just became real easy. The process is simple, and I wasn't particularly a fan of brokers. I never really had a good interaction. I never used a broker, but I had several interactions with local ones here in Phoenix and otherwise, and it just put pushy salespeople. That's about the best way I can describe it. And so, but you know what? The thing of it, going through a broker, that's just the way the industry's done it for like the past 50 years, since like the 80s. Bull brokers kind of came on the scene, and there was a real popular guy out of California that made buying and building up a route, selling it, building up a route, selling it, and kind of turned it in kind of I felt like it was kind of gimmicky, but it's just what the industry was used to for all this time. Nothing like Pool Trader ever existed on a national scale. So yeah,
It,
transitioned into making that happen. It started off initially, it started off as just an app, which, anybody that's been following Pull Trader from the beginning, uh, the app was cool. It was limited. It did not have all the features that I wanted, um, but it was functional. And so within about maybe a year and a half, I mean, we had like 2 or 3 thousand downloads, and just people using it. Like, I was watching it constantly, just, routes going up for sale and transactions happening, people giving me feedback. Because I didn't track anything. I probably should have. I probably should have had that written into the software, but I wanted it to be very relaxed, and I wanted it to just be an open marketplace, like Craigslist. You don't, if a listing disappears, do they track if it sold or not, or did it just go away? I kind of wanted that same thing to be the case. I didn't want pull anybody in the industry feeling like the transaction was being tracked, although the data would have been really good for me. Anyway, it started off as an app. Um, Long story short, I've been through several different developers. Unfortunately, the path to where we are now has not been easy. It just, with software and developer, and I never experienced this side of the industry. Uh, it's tough to find a good developer and to, just have everything updated currently, changes made smoothly. It's been a bumpy road, but where we're at now, it's web based only. Pulltrader.net is my website where, um, everybody can sign up for free. I literally just changed this actually just a couple of weeks ago, where everything is free. It used to be a $10 a month monthly membership, but I got rid of that. This is super simple. It's all free. Um, and I went completely donation based. So anybody that uses it and has a transaction or not, or just wants to support what I'm doing, I just left it all open, no pressure of any kind. But the Facebook group, which I started 2 years ago, Pull Trader Facebook group, I wish I had started that in 2019. That would have been amazing, but better late than never. The Pull Trader Facebook group, we just crossed over 4,600 members, and that's growing exponentially. Um, it's growing really, really fast. I manually approve everybody that comes in and every post that gets made. So I run a really tight ship. I think by and large, the members, they appreciate that, there's no silly content. Like, there's no personal opinions, political, none of that, or even just opinions on, this brand is garbage and you should only use this brand. No, none of that happens. Like in many other pool related Facebook groups, it is strictly buy, sell, and trade, accounts, and equipment. And yeah, so Pool Traders evolved quite a bit over the last 6 going on 7 years, but I feel like it's finally hitting its stride these last couple of years. It's been really good.
that's awesome to hear. And how does the activity compare if someone's looking to check something out? Is the Facebook group more active? Is the website more active?
Facebook group, by and large, yeah.
Yeah.
The and a lot of that's I don't want to say my fault, but the Facebook group has grown so quickly. It was hard for me to have my focus on trying to get people to go to the website. And obviously, like I said, I just made the change a few weeks ago. The $10 monthly membership, I think I was shooting myself in the foot with that. I wanted Pull Trader to have a sense of value, and I wanted it to be a no-brainer, which, $10 a month, and I'll list my route for sale there. And I sold $100,000 route and I only paid $10, but which is great. I'm happy. The transactions have definitely happened. But from my side of things, as happy as I was to have that member for that 1 month, routes got sold way too fast. And which is it's a good thing. But overall, shifting to donation based, um, it's better all the way around. There's no pressure. There's no additional monthly membership fee, which we've got too many of those anyway. So, and it's just a very relaxed approach. So that's been good. But the Facebook group is by and large way more active. Yeah.
Okay, interesting, interesting. Someone who's never bought or sold a route before, maybe they're hearing about Pull Trader, maybe they've heard about it before, they know people have sold routes or something like this. What does a good first transaction look like, and what should they look out for?
Well, that's a loaded question. It entirely depends on their circumstance.
Hmm.
I've had a lot of those conversations, whether it be, a businessman, white collar guy that just wants to make a total career shift, and maybe they've got quite a bit of cash sitting in the bank, 50, $100,000, and they're just looking to, I saw this pull route and I'm going to go all in. And or you've got just maybe somebody that's an employee of another pool company that they finally want to break off on their own. It's it's hard to say what the perfect circumstance is. I'm always an advocate of dipping your toe in the water, especially if you've got no experience. I really I really think having some experience is always better. Go work for another pool company. Be transparent. If you want to start your own thing, but you just want to get you want to get your reps in. These guys that are jumping in with that are cash flush, that have no experience in chemistry, no experience in hydraulics, and all they can keep thinking is how hard could it be to net and brush a pool. Unfortunately, it's the barrier to entry to get into the industry is very low, and it's low cost unless you're buying an established route and all that. But um, I'm always an advocate with starting small and scaling up. You can always buy more pools later, but I've seen guys that went all in, um, and they bought 80 or 100 pools and just you know hit the ground running. By and large, I feel like most of those guys wish they did it different. It was too much all at once. So I think on the several conversations I've had with those guys that went all in, they would have rather bought 50 or 60, given themselves that cushion of a learning curve to really get comfortable and knowledgeable. And if they had no training to learn at a less accelerated pace than they did when they bought 100 pulls and they're working 6 days a week and scrambling to keep everything together. So my opinion, lesser is better and scale up.
How about people who've never bought it or sold a route before? So those are the new buyers. How about people who have a route or a larger company? I don't know what the different profiles are, but
Yeah.
any advice for them?
Advice for them: give me a call.
Yeah, yeah.
Literally, I probably get on average I probably get at least 2 phone calls a week, of just people all over the country that, exactly as you just said, I've never sold any pools before. I've built this up to you know X amount of pools, and I don't even know where to start. I don't know what it's worth. And um so literally I've had probably a couple hundred over the years conversations with people, going through their company, like going kind of line by line, like how many do you have, how tight is it, what are your rates, your repair revenue, just, I mean, all a plethora of different questions, that I can ask, that I know, being in the industry 20 plus years, that gives us a really good idea. Also, I know kind of what the not kind of I know what the market is doing at the time. So, um, I especially here in Arizona where home base is, but just knowing what routes are kind of sort of going for here and there, um, I can give people a really good idea of what they could get for their company. And then, the other big question I get all the time, like, do I have a sample contract that I can provide to them? Like, that spells everything out. I do not give out any contracts, and that's a legal reason. Every state is different to a degree, not a lot, but in how they want these transactions to look, and just there's just different. For example, off the top of my head, we don't really deal with anything on a water table basis here in Arizona. Like that's not really a concern. In Florida, water table and certain concerns and liabilities and waivers, it's a huge concern. So just even in um, disclosing certain things within the transaction, and just the history of pools. So I don't offer a blanket contract, um, but I've held the hand of many people, walked them through the process, helped them build a contract that suits their needs, and go from there. So mhm.
Okay, cool, cool. Who are the um, profiles of people that you work with? Is it mostly maybe single polars or people with maybe a few techs working for them? Do you work with anyone who's larger, like private equity people? What are the different profiles that use Pool Trader?
It's really a pretty balanced mix of all of those. Yeah. Not too much private equity, or venture capitalists. I have been contacted by those huge companies, but uh by and large it's single polars or a husband and wife team, with one, two technicians, uh or on the larger scale, some companies maybe they've got 5 or 10 technicians, but when you start getting into the bigger and bigger companies, uh, those guys have almost assuredly been around the block, and they've already, just through being time in the industry, they've been through buying and selling processes, so they don't they don't really need me for input or advice or counseling, but they definitely use Pool Trader
Yeah.
to buy and sell. So they use the platform as a tool, but my involvement is not. They don't really ask me for my direct involvement with it. So more so single polars or smaller operations are who reach out to me directly.
Okay, great, great. And then um, final question. What do you think the state of the pool route market is right now? Someone who wants to, have a sense of how things are. Maybe they're questioning what they could value their route at if they sold it. What would you tell that person? What is the current state of the market for selling and buying routes?
The state, well, not to toot my own horn, but with Pool Trader being the tool that it is in the industry, nothing like this has ever been in the industry. What I, again, not to toot my own horn, but like we've never had a platform where these transactions can happen, especially free, without the use of a broker or anything. Um, so that part of it is phenomenal. The marketplace is huge, and being able to make connections and transactions is easier than it's ever been. Um, the current state of things, I will say right now, uh, as the economy, as things ebb and flow as they do, right now, buyers outnumber sellers 10, maybe 20 to 1. There are way more buyers than there are sellers. And I get contacted about that a lot, not just here in Arizona, but nationwide. Just, there's the amount of routes and companies for sale is it's at a low right now. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but just uh, the market truly does shift, just like with everything else. Prices high, prices low. Um, right now, the supply and demand, the demand is way higher than the supply. But the cool thing is that even with social media and just technology, being able to search for routes for sale, it's never been easier. So it's a good time to be in the industry and be active in that way, um, no matter what the market conditions are. But it's a good thing. So
And then how about like valuation numbers, guys who have routes, they know how much money they're making. Are the heuristics of 10 to 12x, are those Are those fair numbers for someone to have a heuristic in their head? I've heard people criticize those and say maybe 7x is more reasonable or something like this.
It all depends. Again, there's a plethora of questions that need to be asked. Um, you know, uh, as far as the how tight is the route? What are their current rates at? Are they on the high end? Are they on the low end? Uh, you know, um, and is there going to be any sort of guarantee period? Are they willing? Do they want all cash? Are they willing to have some money down and then finance? All of those different questions kind of weigh into a true evaluation. But yeah, the I would say to answer your first question, 10, 12x, 10 is between 8 and 10 has been the vast normal of what I've seen in these transactions. And some people might balk at that and say, well, well, the brokers, they're selling routes for, 12x all day long. Well, they are, but they're taking 2x right off the top for their fee. So it's 10x still. And and you're not to bash brokers, they provide a service, but I definitely feel like as time goes on, that service is becoming less and less needed or even necessary. Uh, you know, like when I sold my business, although my business, it was unique and it was smooth, but contacting an attorney, having everything notarized and due diligence being made, uh, anybody can do that, and you can do it for a fraction of the cost. Even going to a lawyer and going through all those means, you can anybody can put money in escrow. You don't need a broker to do that for you. Anybody can do that. So the service they provide can easily be replicated, as easy as, to use the analogy again, buying a used car private party versus going to a dealership every time. Not necessary, can be easily done. So um yeah, I'm sorry, I lost my train. What
No,
was the
just
question?
to follow up on that briefly, in terms of brokers versus no brokers,
Yeah.
is there something that I know it sounds like your experience has been with brokers? Maybe they've been a little salesy or maybe sleazy even. Um, is there like if someone is considering brokers, is there something that they should look for in a good broker? Or what services might someone, if they're looking to sell their route and it sounds like you provide some services to people, what are the type of things that someone will need to get figured out?
you know by and large, what I found, as I said, brokers provide a service,
Yeah.
and they tout that it's all hands off. You give them the information and they put your route for sale and they'll get you top dollar. By and large, uh it's so driven by the commission. It's hard to find a really good one. um and in all honesty, there is no broker that's doing, certainly not going out on the route and verifying the quality of the accounts, or even looking at the books. Not Some brokers do, but they don't even look through the books. They take the seller's word for it. I make this is what I'm averaging monthly, and this is where my concentration of accounts are. Great, let's put it for sale, 12x, boom, we'll get you about it. Private party transactions, I feel like due diligence is done way more often, and it's just so much smoother, so much more often. Not to say that private party transactions can't go wrong or bad. They do. Of course they do. Again, back to the used car analogy. Can you buy a lemon, or just get lied to by somebody on Craigslist that the car was this, and all the maintenance is done, and then you buy it and it's like, oh man, the guy snowed me. Yeah, it can happen, but just really doing your due diligence, and especially if they allow you to do uh, a ride along where you can see the accounts and hands on. If they deny you to do that, red flag, right? Um, I see no real true benefit other than If a broker gets a list, if a broker gets a seller or a listing in a very specific area and it's exactly what you want to buy and it's right in that, would you go to that broker? Well, sure. Yeah, they've got a listing, they've got it right where you want it, and the price seems to be fair or reasonable. Other than that, though, I truly don't really see a need uh, to ever to ever really use them.
Great. Well, we'll call it there. I really appreciate your time today, Joe. If people want to check out Pool Trader, there's pooltrader.net. There's the Facebook group. And how can people get in contact with you?
They can get contact me through Facebook Messenger or email joe.pooltrader@gmail.com. I'm pretty easy to find overall, but yeah, happy to speak with anybody that ever has questions or wants advice or consultation. Happy to speak to them.
All right, great. Thank you for your time today, Joe.
Sounds great. Thanks so much.